Am I the asshole here for refusing to let my in-laws name our baby? My wife and I got married 6 years ago, and while I was initially against having kids, she convinced me, and we did. Her family was never really thrilled about me marrying her. They expected her to marry this family friend of hers, and they also didn't like that I was Middle Eastern instead of Italian like them, and that I was a Democrat. I did everything I could to try to please them. I literally converted to Catholicism from Orthodox, but it wasn't enough apparently, because they still stirred shit up during the engagement and the wedding planning. Anyways, fast forward to now, and they're kind of tolerating me. Besides from some offhand comments about our house and not having kids, whatever. So we announced my wife's pregnancy last month, and they've been sending us Italian baby names since, despite the fact that we've told them that we're going for a name that both of us like, not just them. Last Sunday, we invited them over for dinner, just her parents and a cousin from out of town, and they made some rather racist remarks when we told them the names that we were thinking of, and started getting upset that some of their favorite names wouldn't be passed down. No family members with these names, by the way, and that instead, their grandchildren wouldn't have strong Italian names and would have some foreign nonsense. We cut contact for the last few days. So am I the asshole for wanting to name my children? In the comments, OP says, "For all those wondering, yes, my wife is backing me up on this. She was actually the one that suggested we cut contact for a few days. The reason I think I may be the asshole is because they're still my wife's parents, and I felt that maybe they should at least have some say in the name until Saturday." Not the asshole. I will never understand where some families get the entitled attitude that they should have more of a say on the name of a couple's baby than them. As long as y'all agree on that little nugget's name, don't worry about what anyone else thinks. But I hope your wife is putting up some boundaries with them. Congratulations. OP replies, "Yeah, she is. She was the one who made the decision to temporarily cut contact. Thanks. We're thinking of using my late grandfather's name, as it was misspelled during immigration, which gave it more of a feminine ending." Yeah, I think you're not the asshole here, OP. Naming your kid is the most normal boundary in the world, and your wife standing by you is to be expected. Unfortunately, a lot of the time, partners don't stand by you in stupid, obvious situations like this. Her parents sound controlling and a bit racist, if I'm honest. You did more than enough to try to please them, but I think cutting contact, even just for a brief period of time, is probably the healthiest move for everyone right now. So please do that. I'm gonna go not the asshole. And now, onto the update. So, since I last posted, a lot has happened. Last night, me and my wife read through most of the comments and decided that she'd call her parents and stand her ground. So during her call with her mum, the truth came out. From the moment they met me when we were both in high school, her family thought that I was, drumroll please, gay. So during that time, I had mentioned that I had been sewing as a hobby and in the theatre program, and was definitely a bit more soft-spoken than most guys. But I was not and am not gay. But they had thought that I was just a fling before she got back with that family friend of theirs, who she had previously been with and broken up with because he wasn't really that faithful. They slowly grew more bitter as they realized I wasn't temporary because they just wanted the best for their daughter. They were also upset for all the reasons mentioned in my last post. I'm a Democrat, Middle Eastern, didn't want kids, etc. Anyway, not only did they think I was gay, which, no disrespect, I have a lot of LGBTQ+ friends, but they were also constantly comparing me to this family friend who is still single, especially in houses. When we gave them the tour of our first house, instead of being happy for their daughter, they made backhanded comments about how outdated and small it was compared to that family friend's new house. A new construction in a state where land and materials are cheaper versus a Victorian in our state, which is more expensive. Anyways, my wife hung up on her mum, saying, "Until you can learn to respect me and my husband, don't expect me to talk to you." So I feel really pissed about what they said about me behind my back, but I'd rather know than let the gossip continue. In the comments, so they wanted their daughter to be with someone who cheats on her just because he's Italian and the son of their friends. How shitty of them. They are Italian. Don't miss that, OP, and the in-laws are in the USA. With how one of these things they hate is that he's a Democrat, I give about a 95% chance the in-laws are those kind of Americans whose great-great-grandpa was an immigrant back in the 1920s, and they made it their whole personality, despite being completely unable to locate Italy on a map, let alone speak the language. OP says, wow, yes, all of the above is correct. Your in-laws suck. Do they know that family friend was completely unfaithful? If not, have your wife tell them all about that and what a great cat she would be. No one gets to name your kid other than you and your wife. If they press and keep disrespecting you, they don't get to see their grandkid. Because if they disrespect you enough, they will say bad things about you to your child. OP replies, she's told them. But the excuse they use is, it was only high school, I'm sure he's matured now. Those in-laws sound like such lovely people, and I'm so sure that they are going to have contact with OP and the children in the future. I'm so sure that their antics will not result in them being cut off completely because they're trying to break a happy couple up. They're trying to destroy a family just so they can get their daughter to get back with a cheater. No. That's not okay. Please don't do that. Thank you for the story, and thank you for the update, OP. Our next post is by user Wallet, titled, My 23 female, boyfriend 26 male, thinks I'm embarrassed of him, and he's kind of right. So my boyfriend of 10 months is upset that I won't introduce him to my friends. There's a couple of reasons for this. First, I don't have a defined friend group. Most of my friends live in different states or countries. The closest ones are an hour away, and they are very busy. Med school, weekend shifts, etc. My point is that seeing my friends is precious one-on-one time. The only group events I attend are my ex's friends' reunions. They invite me, but they're not my friends. So in general, my significant others don't meet my friends. But because meeting them is super important to my boyfriend, I've realized I am kind of embarrassed by him. I thought he was cute and fun when I met him, but over the last 10 months, he got comfortable and gained around 50 pounds. It's not a medical condition, it's a bad diet of no exercise and constant fast food. He gets too tired to even have missionary sex. He went shopping recently for a rave and now wears rave clothes constantly because they're the only things that actually fit him. These are things like black shorts with neon stripes. A friend of his laughed when she saw him and Snapchatted him looking like a gangster. He also picked up smoking behind my back and grew from a social smoker to several a day. He smells, and I hate it. Overall, if I met him now, I would never consider dating him. But I am in love with him. I just don't want to introduce him until he's back to his early relationship self. Am I being awful? On his side, he has a very defined friend group that all live in the same city and throw group events constantly. It's been easy for him to include me, and we hang out with them often. In the comments, Apathetic Anarchy says, he probably didn't really change. He was probably putting on a good show when you met him, and this is who he thinks he wants to be. OP replies, I know he played baseball from elementary through high school, and last year played a lot of tennis and disc golf with his friends. This seems like such a drastic change that I can't imagine it's his true form. He said he's unhappy with his weight, but admittedly hasn't made any efforts to fix it. You can play baseball and disc golf and still be an obese smoker. OP says, you can, but he wasn't. At the start of our relationship, he was reasonably in shape and only occasionally smoked at parties. At some point, he started smoking when I wasn't around, and now he's a full-blown smoker. How does one gain 50 pounds in 10 months? OP says, he's tall. So most of the changes aren't very noticeable on him. He has also quit and restarted a medication and blamed some of the weight gain on that. But looking back, it had little to do with it. I think he eats roughly 2,000 to 2,400 calories a day. Edit, people have noted that this guess is too low. Yeah, if he's tall OP, I'm saying we're going the 4,000 calorie plus territory. Which, with his height, was probably a good amount when he played sports in high school and college, but is too high now. Actually, 2,000 to 2,400 calories per day should have a taller man losing weight. 2,500 calories is considered maintenance for most men. Either he's eating that many calories and should therefore go to a doctor to figure out what's going on, or he's eating more like 3,000 to 3,500. OP says, "That's interesting. I came up with that number by adding up a usual dinner for him at about 1,400 calories, Taco Bell quesadilla, bean burrito, other entree, and a soda, and then guessing that he eats another 1,000 for lunch. But maybe I'm missing some items, or he does have a medical issue. I'll talk to him about it." You think he only eats lunch, OP? No breakfast, no snacks, no dessert? Come on now. How do you know that it isn't related to the medication? Some meds really do cause you to pack on the pounds. Have you expressed concern about his weight and eating habits? OP says, because he's been on the meds for years, including when he was fit, and he was only off it for about a month, 6 months ago. Some of the weight gain might be related to the med, but considering he's gained weight since then, I don't think it was a significant factor. Look, if you're embarrassed of him and don't like the way he looks or dresses, or that he smokes, or how he smells, and wouldn't consider dating him, why haven't you done anything about it or left? "I love him" is a shit answer. If you loved him, why would you let him have come to this? OP replies, "I didn't arrive here willingly. I've downloaded MyFitnessPal on his phone and bet that the person who logged the fewest days buys date night. I've asked for hikes for my birthday and Valentine's presents. I get him to go on walks with me, but he gets impatient after half a mile. I'm not a great cook or willing to spend a lot on ingredients, so it's difficult to explain why he should cook and season chicken for a mediocre salad instead of go to McDonald's drive-thru. If I could do anything to stop his cigarette cravings, I would, but I can't. The clothes are a recent development, and I'm guessing he'll buy better-fitting clothes soon. But for now, he says he doesn't see the need to look nice on casual days. He normally dresses fairly well." Christ, this is a lot, OP. I'm sorry that you're having to go through all of that. It sounds like you're just holding on to who he was and not who he is now. And that's where all this tension is coming from. I don't think you're wrong for feeling turned off or embarrassed by him, but I don't think you can just wait around hoping that he'll revert to his old self. Sounds like you've tried encouraging him with the MyFitnessPal app, but he sounds all but checked out. I think at this point, it's less about fixing him and more about asking if this version of him is someone you can truly love long term. It's okay to have deal breakers. It's okay to say, we don't share the same values anymore. Maybe it's time for ultimatum territory, but at the same time, if you don't think it's going to change, maybe you have to decide if and when it's time to step away from him. And now, on to the update. So I told him that I was worried about his unhealthy habits and asked if he was depressed. He said he wasn't sure, but he did hate his job. This surprised me, because he excelled at school and enjoyed discussing related topics, but I guess actual programming was burning him out. He also said he was just picking a fight about my friends out of stress. I suggested that he switch to the business side of things, and after some exploring, he seemed interested. He soon after bought new clothes, which I am so thankful for, switched to vaping, so regretful, and started a job hunt. I let him focus on applying, but tried to passively inspire him by getting into shape myself. He eventually became a manager at a game company and was way happier, but I just got more frustrated. I had never really dieted before, but I learned that it's actually pretty easy if you're disciplined about logging calories. I dropped from a 22 BMI to a 19 BMI without exercising, and then threw in some weights. Meanwhile, he quit his job after getting some interviews, but did nothing except grow his nicotine addiction because he could now smoke indoors with his vape. Then he got a job and Snapchatted all his co-workers' happy hours and new food perks. I know starting can be hard, but he kept moving the goalposts for getting started. After quitting old jobs, after interviews, after new job probation period. A couple weeks ago, I invited him to a friend's musical. We were running a bit late, but he said he needed to use my bathroom and set off the fire alarm because he was vaping. I blew up. I was so furious he planned to meet new people and then subject them to that awful smell for the next 3 hours. So I finally gave him the ultimatum that you guys suggested 4 months ago. It seems like it worked. He replaced his vape with nicotine gum, bought an elliptical, cut out soda, and started cooking more. I hope it all sticks, but if it doesn't, I'll be fine. I've grown more confident and a lot hotter since I last posted. Edit, to address some of the comments, I admire a lot of the things about my boyfriend. He's smart and hardworking and graduated at the top of his class. He shares my sense of humor and many of my interests. He's very willing to listen and communicate. He's a great compliment to my personality, and I have a blast hanging out with him. I absolutely love him and want him to be happy. That just wasn't the point of the original post or the update. I don't mean to make my boyfriend sound awful or to demean him. I don't care if he ever has a six-pack. I just want him to be the average weight guy that he was when we started dating. Opie gives some details about her ultimatum. I mean, that was the point of the ultimatum. If he was happy, I wanted to break up so that we could pursue our individual lives. I haven't actually told him to do anything. I've only said that I'm unhappy with his intense weight gain and smoking. The way he fixates those things are up to him, including breaking up with me if he wants. Well, this update shows a lot of maturity on your part at least, OP. I'm glad that you finally stopped trying to manage him and instead drew a solid boundary. Interesting that when you gave him space to either improve or walk away from the relationship, he actually took action. Weird, huh? Unfortunately, it does look like you've outgrown parts of the relationship, OP. Your lifestyle is getting a lot more active and a lot healthier, while he continues to make excuses. And even if he sticks to the changes that he's made, I guess, it sounds like you're mentally checked out. And I don't blame you at this point. He's shown a serious lack of effort, self-respect, and I guess he's just shown that their values don't align anymore. I would just feel so disrespected if I were you, OP. I feel like you should leave him at this point. Good luck in the future. Our next post is by a throwaway account, and it's in the wedding drama subreddit, titled, Asking to Pay for a Trip That I Did Not Attend. Hi all, I, 25 female, am a part of a bridal party for a close friend whose wedding is coming up soon. A few months ago, the maid of honor planned a bachelorette party in another country. From the very beginning, I let them know that I wouldn't be able to attend due to financial reasons. International travel and the associated costs just aren't in my budget right now. Everyone was understanding at the time, or so I thought. The bachelorette trip happened recently, and days after the group got back to the States, the maid of honor sent a message in the group chat, specifically one that included only the bridal party members who did not attend the trip, asking each of us to send $300 so the bride wouldn't have to pay her share of the trip. This completely blindsided me. I never agreed to contribute financially to something that I wasn't attending, and at no point before or during the planning did anyone say anything about splitting the bride's costs among people who weren't going. If they had, I would have made it clear that I couldn't afford that either. Now I'm feeling really weird about the whole thing. On one hand, I get that people want to treat the bride, and if I'd been a part of the trip, I might have chipped in with the others to cover some of her expenses, but to ask for that money after the fact, from people who didn't even go, feels unfair and borderline manipulative. I haven't responded to the messages yet, and I don't want to cause drama, but I also feel like I shouldn't have to pay for something that I didn't attend, especially when I was upfront from the beginning. So am I the asshole for thinking it's unfair to ask me to pay $300 for a trip that I didn't go on? In the comments, not the asshole. I would send a text in the original chat asking how much those who did attend are contributing towards the bride. $300 a person is a lot. From the sounds of it, that's at least $600. You want to be sure that you are not subsidizing anyone else's trip. OP replies, it would be split 10 ways, so I'm assuming they spent $3K per person. It was a weekend trip, so I couldn't justify the cost. Not the asshole at all. If this were an expectation, this should have been clearly communicated to all bridesmaids before the trip so people could adjust their budget or opt out in time. For those who didn't attend, you all shouldn't be expected to foot any part of the bill, and anything you decide to gift, if at all, should be considered a kindness. This whole season of expectation around wedding events is becoming so overwhelming. Send a message stating that there's been a misunderstanding, and when you said you couldn't financially afford to go on the trip, this also included paying for anyone else to go on the trip. Yup, I'm with them, OP. This is incredibly unfair, and you are not the asshole. This absolutely is something that needs to be agreed upon before going on a trip, not sprung on people afterwards, especially those who didn't even attend. That's not fair. You were clear up front about how much you could afford, and they respected that at the time. This is just them guilt-tripping you now after the fact and placing expectation on you, which should not be there. You're not being difficult by saying no. You are setting boundaries for yourself that they've tried to cross retroactively. I would just send a calm message back to the chat saying that you can't pay for an event that you didn't attend. That is completely reasonable, and any sane person will understand where you're coming from. And now, onto the update. Hello all. It's been about 3 months since I last posted, but here's an update for you guys. I texted the bride telling her that due to financial issues, I would no longer be able to be a bridesmaid, but I wish her the best and would still love to be there for her and attend as a guest. I know, I should have at least called, but I also struggle with confrontation and social anxiety, so I prefer to do things over text so that I have time to really think about what I'm going to say, but shit really hit the fan. She told me she's really hurt by my decision, and she felt that she deserved more than a text message, which is valid, and that she doesn't know where we go from here. Hindsight is 2020, so I asked if I could call her after I got out of work, to which she never responded. I tried reaching out a few more times, and she told me she didn't have time for this drama, which I took as she needed some space, so I decided to respect that. Her bridal shower came and went, and I did not attend because we haven't had any contact with each other since I dropped out of the bridal party, but the drama doesn't end there. You see, I like to make jokes that the bride is friends with everyone and their mum because she truly has a lot of friends. And I'm not even being dramatic. Basically, everyone I know has been invited to this wedding, including my own mum, and my sisters, and my brother, and my cousins, but not me. I never got an invitation. I feel like the only thing I have to apologize for was pulling out over a text, but my reasoning behind it was completely valid. And how can I even apologize now when I'm being ghosted? Also, I'm not even sure if I want to reach out anymore because I don't feel like I need to beg for someone's friendship. Not really looking for advice, just wanted to get some feelings out and figured that you guys might want an update. It does make me sad that she threw away a 20-year friendship over this though. In the comments, based on the post you linked, I don't see how that was a reason to drop out of the wedding party. I would have felt blindsided as the bride, especially if I didn't know anyone asked you to pay for anything. OP replies, okay, I definitely posted a very watered-down version of the story, but basically, I dropped out after the maid of honor told us that we're renting a huge house for the shower, and we would have to set up for 3 days, and that we needed to split everything equally to make sure that it all works for the bride. That text came less than 24 hours after I said I was able to pitch in $100 for the bachelorette and not $300, so it kind of felt passive-aggressive to me. The house and balloons had us at a $2,000 tab already and didn't include any drinks, food, decor, or party favors, so I was really nervous about the budget, and that's when I texted her. I did tell her that I wasn't sure if she was aware that we were being asked to pay for everything, and I just couldn't swing it financially, and that was why I was pulling out. I also sent the text back in July, and the wedding is in November. I'm also hurt that one of the other bridesmaids told me that she texted the bride and pulled out for financial reasons, and she didn't send any money for the bachelorette, and she is still invited, and the bride was extremely kind to her and said she understood. She even said that the other girl could just be there for her day of and not pay anything, and that it was offensive because I only threw in $100, which is basically nothing. Someone else asks, how did this bridesmaid go about telling the bride that she couldn't do it? Based on information you've given, that has to be the reason the bride is still inviting her, and not you. OP says, I'm not sure exactly what the text said, But I know she told her through a text, and then the bride called her, and that's when she said I was offensive that I only gave her $100 towards the bachelorette trip. The bride did tell me a few months ago that she only asked her to be a bridesmaid because they used to be really close, but they haven't really been in touch lately, so I'm really not sure what's happening. When asked, when did the other bridesmaid drop out? OP says, it was between 2 to 4 weeks after I pulled out and also over a text message. I just don't know exactly what was said. Very rough situation, but maybe you dodged a friendship that's become one-sided and conditional. That's kind of how I'm seeing this. This is like incredibly awkward, and I kind of feel like she just doesn't like you, and that's why this happened. You were transparent about your finances. You offered to support her as a guest, but she took this personally and just ghosted you. That's sad. You've been friends for 20 years. That's insane. How does someone just disappear like that? It has to be more than the money. $100, that is an excuse. I feel like there has to be missing reasons going on here. Something else had to happen, especially if someone 2 to 4 weeks later was able to come to the wedding and she was completely cool with them. Look, I don't think from what you've said, you've done anything wrong here, and you don't owe her more chasing or apologies, OP, but there has to be more to the story for this insane reaction of hers. Good luck with that. Thanks for the story and thanks for the update. Anyway, guys, that's where I'm going to end today's episode. I do hope you enjoyed. If you did, let me know what you thought of it in the comments down below, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.